All right, guys, welcome to part 2 of my kit video. In this part, we're going to be talking about some body armor and then belt line stuff as well. So first, I want to start off with my belt line on what I carry with me on more of an overt type system, sort of, if you would. And the reason for that is because that's what I would recommend next. After you get the chest rig that we talked about in the first video, something like that, the next thing will be some sort of belt line. That's assuming you've already got your concealed carry holster. If you're not going to be doing concealed carry and you don't have a holster for your gun, get a holster first and some mag pouches. I would definitely recommend doing that first before even the chest rig. But let's say you've already got your concealed carry and your EDC kind of locked down. I would recommend doing the chest rig first, assuming you've got a rifle also or some sort of AR pistol, and then doing the belt line. Ultimately, it really doesn't matter. It's up to you based on your situation and what you prioritize. So real quick, let's go down to the belt and I'll talk about what I got. Now we're looking at the belt line here. As you can see, I've got a holster for my Glock 34. If you know from my EDC video, this is my concealed carry pistol. So it doesn't change from concealed carry to going to more of an overt direct action type kit, if you would, if you want to call it that. So I'm still using the same pistol, and that's kind of our own decisions here with my family, just so we don't have a ton of guns and I use more money on training and things like that. I do have a leg strap for it. Now, this isn't actually a purpose-built leg strap. This is a Spiritus Systems skinny strap for their chest rig that I modified. I just cut down a little bit shorter, and I inserted it in between the screws here on the Safariland, behind the QLS here on the Safariland mid-ride. And it keeps the gun basically attached to my leg. When I go to draw, if you can see, this is just a retention holster. It is not, there's no locking mechanism. So it's a level 1. It's just the Kydex squeezing onto the gun. There is no physical lock on it. So when I go to grab it, since it's squeezing the gun, the holster wants to come up too. And so this keeps the holster down so that I can draw smoothly. If you don't have this, you run the risk of bringing the whole holster up and kind of getting some of this action right here going. If you are running something like the Safariland ALS holster or SLS holster, you don't have to worry about the leg strap quite as much, especially if you keep the tension in the holster just a little loose, just enough so it doesn't flop around in there, but not too tight that it actually squeezes the gun as you're pulling it out. Because once you unlock it, the gun should come out pretty easily without any real force needed to do that. And a lot of times you don't run into that issue where the holster kind of flares out. So on this particular holster right here, this is more of a range holster. You could use this for duty use if you have a particular type of role. I have heard of guys using this type of a holster who are in the military, using it overseas for different things. But if you know for sure you're doing some sort of professional job, I would definitely recommend like a level 2 or a level 3 holster with some locking mechanism, especially if you're concerned with wearing this holster all the time, or people are going to see it a lot and somebody might take your gun. So but for me, for doing what I'm doing, where 99% of the time this holster is just worn for the range, this is just fine here. Eventually I will get another Safariland holster. Unfortunately, I have like 3 of them, but none of them accommodate optics. So it is what it is. Behind these gloves here, they're hiding these other 2 pouches I've got. Now, I've got one pistol mag pouch on me for the Glock 34, and then one AR mag. And if you notice, I'm wearing the same belt. It's just my EDC belt woven in the belt loops, and I put my buckle all the way to the side of the holster. That way I get a little bit more room with the extra material here. I can actually put pouches on without it causing any issues. I don't have anything else on me, nothing on the back, no med pouches or anything back here. And this is based on just my experience from law enforcement. The belts, especially heavy belts that you have to put really tight to keep it nice and secure and things like that, they just really wore down on my back after a while. And I had to carry a lot of equipment, and some of that stuff was on the back, and especially sitting in a car, it just like, I'm a pretty young guy and I've already got back problems, and they started when I was a teenager, when I was an intern wearing one of those belts. So I like keeping the back as clear as possible, and I like kind of keeping the front for the most part pretty clear, because I still want to be able to not have an issue when I bend forward where this bumps into any pouches. Like if I had straight up mags right here and I try to lean forward, I'd probably go about that far and I'd be done. Because they would run into each other and it wouldn't allow me to bend over. So I like being able to keep it pretty clear so that I have a little bit more flexibility, and it's also a lot more comfortable to go prone in this kind of stuff. So both of these pouches, the AR mag pouch and the pistol mag pouch, are from T-Rex Arms, and I've got them on the Safariland. I think they're called Tech Locks. They're like little plastic clips, but I actually don't even need to take the belt off to take these off. I can open it up right there and then slide this out. But anyways, I really like these. They're pretty darn secure, pretty darn fast. So yeah, that's my belt line. I like to keep it minimalist. I don't keep anything, you know, Velcro battle belt with 1,000 things on it. I like to just keep it minimalist and pretty slick. So yeah, let's go up to the plate carrier. Plate carrier. I have run a bunch of different carriers out there, and you know, going from larger ones that are designed for a lot, to carry a heavy load, to wear for a long time, and then more slick ones like this one here. Some of my favorite ones out there, the Crye JPC 2.0, hands down, probably one of my favorite carriers overall. The Spiritus Systems LV119 Overt, that's definitely one of my favorite carriers, and I ran that one for a long time, not as long as the JPC. The other one I really like is the LBT 6094A. I ran that one for a long time. If you're looking for a heavier load, that's definitely a comfortable carrier. They've got a new one out that's much more streamlined, sort of like the JPC. I don't have any experience with it yet, but it looks pretty interesting. Another company that's worth mentioning is Faro Concepts. They make some really good stuff too. And if you notice, this one is very much inspired by their Slickster concealable plate carrier. This is actually not Faro Concepts. This is a Defense Mechanisms MEPC. And I forget exactly what that stands for. I think it's like Mission Essentials Plate Carrier or something along those lines. But basically, this is cut very similar, but it's got completely different features than it in a lot of ways. So I'm going to go over mine in just a second here, but why would you want something like this? Well, obviously, you need to carry that essential equipment that we talked about in the first video, but also you want to accommodate body armor. For me, there's a couple requirements I like for my plate carrier. I need to have some sort of small admin pouch at least, so I can, you know, take notes, store maps and stuff like that if I need to, or any kind of information, as well as, you know, small extra things like an extra battery or a spare lighter or something along those lines. I can keep in there. So this one actually has an admin pouch up front. The next thing is I like things really slick. Even if you are doing something more of a team environment where you're going to be, you know, a SWAT team, or even guys in the military, if your mission or your SOPs don't require you to have more gear, I always advocate for kind of slimming things down as best you can, and making yourself lighter, faster, more mobile, more comfortable, because ultimately that's what's going to matter, is your mobility in those situations. You've got to be, you know, you don't want to show up to a fight completely drained of all your energy, fatigued, overheating, all of this stuff from wearing a Juggernaut suit wherever you go. Unfortunately, from my little experience I had in on SWAT and then working with SWAT teams, the guys that carried all that equipment always ran into issues with it. And like I mentioned, overheating, getting really tired really fast. You know, carrying so much equipment, you lose a lot of your mobility and your flexibility. Plus, all that nylon's rubbing against itself and making a lot of noise wherever you go, and you're kind of this not too tactical juggernaut walking everywhere. And it's kind of an interesting situation, because of all those negatives, and you've got all this extra body armor, you're probably more likely to actually need the body armor because you're so over encumbered, if you would. So I always advocate for going as slick and lightweight and minimalist as you possibly can based on your situation. And that's going to be up to you to decide what kind of equipment that is. So for me, that's going to be pretty much the same equipment that we talked about on the chest rig. 3 magazines, that's my default. I can put a radio in here or other things in here if I want. This is a Spiritus Systems flap on the front right here, and I have it attached with these Swift clips. Now, side note real quick, for those of you wanting like an extremely concealable chest rig, this doubles as a chest rig. It's got these connectors on the side, these little loops that I can actually take my harness, my X harness from my chest rig, put it on this and use this as a chest rig and put, you know, one mag, a radio, and a tourniquet with shears in here or something like that. So you can really like make this super, super slick, which is one reason why I really like these stretch type pouches. The Kydex pouches, like the S-Tac ones, are awesome pouches. I've run those for a very long time. But if you're not putting in AR mags or whatever mags they're designed for, they really don't work all that well. They really only work for what they're intended for. These are a little bit more flexible. Now, if you're doing something like scuba diving, skydiving, or getting in a lot of fights where you're worried your mags are going to come flying out, something like the flap style from Crye Precision is an awesome option to add a little bit extra security, and or simply attaching the bungee connectors on here to add a little bit of extra tension to these. That said, these are actually pretty darn secure. I have to really pull to get these things out because it's new. It'll wear in a little bit, but I'm very, very happy with how secure these are. So that's why I like the stretch style pouches personally, and that's just my preference. On the bottom, I actually have a tourniquet holder right here, and that's just Velcroed underneath the placard, so I can hold my tourniquet nice and tight here to the carrier. I can reach it with both hands, super easy to get to, and that's pretty essential. So I keep that right up front. I also keep a small clip that's also same style. It's Velcroed underneath the placard. And I can put my gloves on here. I can put glow sticks on here, but I like to have something attached to my kit. So whether I'm grabbing my chest rig or my plate carrier to do something with it, I've got my gloves on it if I need them. Notice right behind the mags, I've got my trauma shears, and those are just squeezed in between the Velcro, and just the pressure of the Velcro and kind of the position they're at keeps them fairly secure in there. And then I use those loops that you can attach the chest rig straps to hold a Sharpie, more for administrative purposes. So that's pretty much it for the front. For the side cummerbunds, I chose to go with their 2-strand skeletal cummerbund with their tubes. These aren't First Spear tubes, they're Defense Mechanisms tubes, so they only go one direction. But I like the idea of being able to pull this and immediately get this thing on or off. Some people don't like it and they prefer the Velcro. I can still do that with these because they attach these little Velcro panels in here, so I can still adjust it if I need to. I don't have an issue with those. The other thing too is some people like the elastic cummerbunds. Now, I am a fan of elastic if you're not putting anything in it. If you're putting heavy or very hard objects with a lot of edges to them, they tend to dig into my sides personally, and that's just because I'm a skinny, kind of bony guy. So they're not very comfortable when you put stuff in them. If I put soft things in there, like a pair of gloves and a med kit or something like that, I'd probably be okay. But you start putting radios and mags in there, it just kind of grinds and rubs up against my ribs the whole time, and it gets really annoying. So I prefer to attach pouches to some sort of skeletal cummerbund like this. However, I think the stretch aspect of it is really awesome. So on the Spiritus LV119 or the JPC, you have like the stretch cord you attach your cummerbund with. There's a little bit of play in that to give you that stretch if you want, which I think is pretty cool. However, on the Defense Mechanisms, they have an option where you can do elastic to the skeletonized cummerbund. So this actually does have stretch elastic in the back, if you can see that there, so that I have some stretch on this carrier, which is really nice to have. On my cummerbund, I don't have anything on my right side, and on my left side, I have a small Crye grenade pouch here. That has the rest of my med kit in it. So I can't really get to it with both hands, but I can definitely get to it with my left hand. It's a bit of an issue trying to find a good spot to put all this medical equipment because I don't like on plate carriers the dangler style pouches, and I don't want to really put it up front anymore where it might get in the way of my draw, or it might get in the way of me grabbing my pistol mag or my rifle mag or anything like that. So I try to keep it as out of the way as I can. but it's, you know, it's a personal decision on where you want to put that and how you want to put it. But this has my chest seal, combat gauze, and regular gauze, as well as a set of gloves in it, and it's all squeezed in there nice and tight, and singed down, and pretty compact, a pretty small pouch there. And then obviously my tourniquet is the other part of that kit. On the right side here, this is where I keep my radio. I would prefer to put it on my left. However, I only had a wing pouch for the right side in my inventory upstairs, and so that's what I'm using right now. And I put the antenna towards the carrier so it can kind of sit here nice and tight and not get too much in the way of you know, the movement of my arm or anything like that. I did run into that issue in law enforcement when I put my radio, it was actually on my left side, but the antenna was away from the center of the vest, and it would constantly poke me and get in the way and stuff like that, and I eventually had to flip my radio around. So I like having the antenna close to the plate bag. And this is, again, in one of those wing style pouches, so it's underneath the cummerbund, it's not actually on it, and there is kind of a small gap between the edge of the vest and my body here, and this kind of just occupies that space, so it's really, really low profile. So to me, this is a great style setup, something along these lines, slick, minimalist. This is what I personally prefer, and this is what I would recommend people think about, look into if you're looking at getting this kind of gear. So the last thing is the helmet. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. All right, so the helmet I got here is the OpsCore Maritime. This is not the SF, the new one that came out. So some of the accessories are the older version of it, but for the most part, it's the same shell. And I've got this set up, you know, for night vision, how I would like to have it. I don't have goggles right now with me, unfortunately, but this is essentially how I would wear this helmet. Now, it's really up to you guys. This is probably the last thing I would get. So I would get a plate carrier and all this other stuff first. Last thing I would think about is a helmet, and I would definitely think about why you might need it. In law enforcement, I bought a ballistic helmet and I used it while I was on patrol for shootings I went to, or you know, some sort of standoff with armed people, or even active shooter response. I used it for those types of situations, so I had a little bit extra protection for, you know, me having to observe things and having to go into places where you know, there was a good chance I could get hurt. So that's why I initially got this. Now, that's not saying there is no other reasons to have this. I definitely think people should be picking up ballistic helmets for sure, but it would be probably the last thing, like I said, to get on your list. So think about why you want something like this. If it's just for armor, that added benefit of, you know, having the extra protection, and or night vision, which I definitely recommend. Night vision's a huge force multiplier. Anyways, this is a 3A ballistic helmet, and this is one of the lightest on the market. And that's why I chose it, because I wanted it to be as light as possible. Again, we go over all my kit. There's a theme: minimal, lightweight. Now, I could take all this stuff off to be even more minimal, but the majority of the time I'm running this, it's because I'm running night vision, and this stuff helps with that. So let's talk exactly about what accessories I have on this thing right now. First, the harness, which are these straps right here. This is the Team Wendy BOA harness. This is, for me, the most comfortable one out there. I would definitely recommend it. I do like the regular OpsCore harness, but I just find that this one's a little bit more comfortable for me. So I got that one. The pads on the inside are the TMVC 0G pads. When it's cold like it is today, these pads get hard. And as I'm wearing it, as my head warms them up, they get softer. So I do have to adjust this a little bit, but they are very comfortable to wear for a long period of time. Once you get everything set right, you know, you end up with a very comfortable system. So either these pads, I did run the Team Wendy Epic Air pads for a very long time. I highly recommend those as well. So those are just two of many options that are out there on the market. On the side rails, as you can see, I've got these Unity Mark arc rail adapters. This is an arc rail right here, and these hold my comms to it. So these are CommTac 3s, I believe. They might be 2s or 3s. I don't really remember, to be honest with you. But this is what I can hook my radio up to. I don't have the connector to go exactly to it, but I'm hoping I'm getting that very soon, so that I can actually run my radio through here, and there's a microphone on here too. They also are obviously hearing protection, so they do offer a pretty good decibel reduction for gunshots and things like that. So to help protect your hearing and add to your situational awareness, I think it's huge. The other thing too is you can actually make these things pretty loud if you wanted to. So it'll still cut out the loud noises, but like ambient noise, you can make it louder than what I can normally hear. So when I have this all the way up, there is a little bit of like a staticky noise to it. It's very subtle, but there is some static to it. But then other noises I can hear better than my normal hearing. So it's actually, it's a pretty cool system that I like a lot. There are some better ones out there now, like the updated version of this and some other ones like from OpsCore, but these are pretty solid and they're pretty obtainable right now. So, and they also come in at a pretty good price. I want to say I bought mine a couple years ago for like 350 bucks. So not too bad. You're not spending $1,000 on, you know, a set of earpieces. Before we move on from the arc rail, I've also got this Princeton Tech light right here. I forget what it's called, but it's one button on it, and then it's got a couple different settings for red, white, and let's see, there is a super bright setting on this right here. So a brighter white setting, and then if I just hold this down, it goes straight to IR. So I really like this for administrative stuff. If you're doing a search, if you're looking at information, intel, maps, or whatever, or need to do some maintenance on something and don't want to draw too much attention, this has always been more than enough lighting for me to use. So I'd like this because it's pretty lightweight, and it's got a bunch of different features to it. But it depends on what you want. Some people like throwing a Surefire vampire style light or a mod light up there. There's a lot of different options out there. Now on the back, I've got this replica PVS 31 pouch. Yeah, I get it. It's probably for airsoft or whatever, but the reason I have this on here is because I could not, for the life of me, find a legit plastic, like hard case battery pouch for the back of this thing. All of them are nylon, and I really didn't want nylon as part of my helmet. I really like the hard plastic more for the weather resistance and things like that. So I went with this replica pouch, and I have 4 batteries in here, 2 CR123s and 2 AA's. So I use it as sort of a counterweight, that in conjunction with my strobe, to help counterbalance the nods when they're on here. And this seems to be usually around what I need. It's maybe a little light for like a set of PVS 15s, but a set of like a PVS 14 or something like a DTMVS this is gonna be enough weight back here. So that's why I have it. If I find like a more legit weatherproof pouch system that's small and compact like this, that I can put the batteries I need to in there, I'll probably end up switching it out. But for now, that's what I got right here. This is a Hellstar strobe, and this is mostly for night vision, but I do use this for other administrative stuff on the range too. So when we are doing night shooting and I have to go downrange and it's very dark, I usually turn this on to let everybody know I'm downrange, because most people can't see, you know, in the dark without using flashlights and stuff like that, so that everybody knows I'm down there. And I also like having the extra body armor in case there are some situations where I've gone out to the desert and there's groups of people I don't know shooting out there, and I've accidentally been shot at once or twice. So having the extra protection and having the strobe on there that grabs people's attention is definitely an added benefit for me in those situations. I've obviously got a Wilcox G24 mount on the front for night vision, and then I've just got a couple patches on here. This is the Goon Squad patch from Unknown 8. Awesome dude, love his stuff, and if you're looking for something cool like this, I would definitely recommend him. But on this side right here, I've got an IR reflective patch. So this is specifically for night vision use, so that buddies of mine can shine their IR towards me, and this will shine back as an American flag or an IR reflection, and they'll know that that is a friendly they're looking at. So that just helps identify me a little bit better. So that's pretty much everything I have as far as kit goes. plate carrier, chest rig, belt line, and helmet. So if you guys have any more questions on any of this stuff, trying to figure things out, there's a lot of new people to this community now. We've got about 9 million new gun owners, and I definitely recommend for any gun owner who's interested in protecting freedom, preserving freedom, I think it's their duty to have this kind of stuff and be ready to go like a Minuteman at a moment's notice. So please, I'm not the most knowledgeable guy out there, but I definitely want to do my part to help some of those newcomers here in our community. So if you have any comments or questions or anything like that, please let me know. With that being said, guys, take care, stay safe, and God bless.